The rain hammered down on the muddy streets of Redemption, Montana territory, turning the world into a blur of grey and brown. Sarah Mitchell pressed herself against the rough wooden wall of the general store, her threadbare shawl doing nothing against the storm's fury. Her fingers trembled as she clutched the silver locket, the last thing her mother had given her before the fever took her 3 months ago. Inside the store, she could see the warm glow of lanterns, smell the coffee and fresh bread. Her stomach cramped with hunger. She hadn't eaten in 2 days, not since she'd fled her uncle's ranch after he'd announced she was to marry Silas Crane, a man twice her age, with 3 dead wives and a reputation for brutality. The locket was all she had left. Maybe the storekeeper would trade it for enough food to get her to the next town. Before we continue with Sarah's journey, I'd love to ask you to take a moment to subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. It truly means so much to us and motivates us to bring you more quality stories like this one. I'm also curious, where are you listening from today? Let me know in the comments. Sarah pushed open the door, water streaming from her dark hair, pooling at her feet on the wooden floor. The storekeeper, a portly man with suspicious eyes, looked up from his ledger. "No beggars," he said flatly. "I'm not begging." Sarah's voice shook but held firm. "I have this." She held up the locket, silver catching the lamplight. "It's real silver. I need food. Bread, beans, whatever you can spare." The man squinted at it. "Might be worth a day's worth of provisions, maybe." "Please." The word tasted like ash. "It's all I have." The bell above the door chimed. Sarah turned to see a man step inside, water shedding from his broad shoulders like a waterfall. He stood well over 6 feet, with dark hair plastered to his head and eyes the color of storm clouds. His presence seemed to fill the small store, commanding without speaking. Mud caked his boots and the hem of his long coat, and there was a hardness in his jaw that spoke of a man who'd faced down worse than rain. "Storm's getting worse, Mr. Hawthorne," the storekeeper said, his tone notably more respectful. The man, Hawthorne, said nothing. His gaze had fixed on Sarah, taking in her soaked dress, her trembling hands, the locket she still held out like an offering. Something shifted in his expression, a softening around those steel-grey eyes. "That won't be necessary," Hawthorne said, his voice deep and quiet. He stepped closer, and Sarah caught the scent of leather, horses, and rain. "Keep your locket, miss." I can't accept charity," Sarah said, though her pride felt as thin as her worn shoes. "It's not charity." He turned to the storekeeper. "Box up a week's worth of provisions. Good ones, coffee, flour, salt pork, beans, and add a warm coat." His eyes found Sarah's again. A person shouldn't have to trade their memories for survival. The storekeeper's eyebrows shot up, but he scurried to comply. Sarah stood frozen, uncertain whether to feel grateful or ashamed. "I can't repay you," she whispered. "Didn't ask you to." Hawthorne pulled out a leather pouch and counted out coins. "But if you're looking for work, I need someone at the ranch. Cook quit last week, and my men are about ready to mutiny over my burnt biscuits." Sarah's hand closed around the locket. "I can cook." "Then we have an arrangement." He held out his hand. "Cole Hawthorne." She took it, feeling the calluses, the strength. Sarah Mitchell. His handshake was firm but brief, professional, but she felt the warmth of it long after he let go. The ride to the Hawthorne ranch took 2 hours through the storm. Cole had offered her his horse while he walked alongside, ignoring her protests. By the time they reached the property, night had fallen completely, and Sarah could only make out the silhouettes of buildings against the lightning-split sky. The ranch house was larger than she'd expected, 2 stories of solid timber with a wide porch wrapping around the front. Cole led the horse to the barn, helped her down with hands that lingered just a moment at her waist, steadying her when she stumbled on legs stiff from the cold ride. Inside, he lit lanterns and stoked the fire in the massive stone hearth. The main room was spartanly furnished but clean, A table, chairs, a worn leather sofa, shelves lined with books. Sarah noticed the lack of personal touches, no photographs or decorations beyond a rifle mounted above the fireplace. "Guest rooms upstairs, second door on the right," Cole said, shrugging off his wet coat. Beneath it, his shirt clung to broad shoulders and a chest that spoke of years of hard labor. "I'll bring your provisions up. There's a bath down the hall if you want hot water." "Mr. Hawthorne." Cole. His eyes met hers, and she saw something there. Understanding, maybe, recognition of pain. Just Cole. Cole. The name felt strange on her tongue. "Thank you." He nodded once, then disappeared into the kitchen, leaving her alone with the fire's warmth and the strange, unfamiliar feeling of safety. The first week passed in a careful dance of proximity and distance. Sarah woke before dawn to start breakfast for Cole and his 4 ranch hands, gruff men who tipped their hats respectfully and praised her biscuits like they were manna. She cooked, cleaned, learned the rhythms of the ranch. Cole maintained a polite distance, speaking only when necessary, his presence a constant, solid thing on the edges of her awareness. But she watched him, saw how gently he handled the horses, how he paid his men fairly and listened to their concerns, saw the way he'd stand on the porch at sunset, staring at the mountains with an expression of profound loneliness. One evening, 2 weeks after her arrival, Sarah found him in the barn tending to a mare with a cut leg. She'd brought him dinner, stew and fresh bread, and set it on a hay bale. "She'll be all right," Sarah said, watching him wrap the wound with practiced care. "Stepped in a gopher hole this morning. Lucky it wasn't worse." He patted the mare's neck, murmuring something too low for Sarah to hear. "You're good with them." She moved closer. "The horses. They're honest." Cole stood, wiping his hands on a rag. "They don't pretend to be something they're not." The words hung between them, weighted with meaning. Sarah gathered her courage. "Why did you help me?" she asked. "That day in town, you didn't know me." Cole was quiet for a long moment. The lantern light cast shadows across his face, highlighting the strong line of his jaw, a scar above his left eyebrow she'd never noticed before. 3 years ago," he said finally, "my wife died in childbirth. The baby too." His voice was steady but empty. "Before that, we'd been trying to get to California, but we ran out of money in redemption. She was desperate. Tried to sell her wedding ring for food." He looked at Sarah then, really looked at her. "The man at the store took it and gave her half what it was worth. She was so ashamed, cried for days." "I'm sorry," Sarah whispered, "when I saw you standing there with that locket." He shook his head. "I saw her, saw myself, failing to protect her all over again. I couldn't—" He stopped, jaw working. Nobody should have to give up their past to survive the present. Sarah's throat tightened. She understood loss, understood the way guilt could hollow out a person from the inside. Without thinking, she reached out and touched his arm. Cole went still. His eyes dropped to where her hand rested on his forearm, then back to her face. The air between them suddenly felt charged, electric as the storm that had brought them together. Sarah. Her name was a warning and a question. "You're not responsible for what happened to her," Sarah said softly. "You know that, don't you?" Some days. He didn't pull away. Most days, no. She should remove her hand, step back, maintain the careful boundaries they'd established. Instead, she moved closer. "I was supposed to marry Silas Crane," she said, the words spilling out. "My uncle arranged it after my parents died. Silas is... he hurt his other wives. Everyone knew, but no one did anything." Her voice dropped. "The night before the wedding, I heard him and my uncle talking. Silas said once I was his, he'd break me in the same way he had the others." Cole's jaw clenched, muscles jumping beneath the tanned skin. "Did he touch you?" "No, I ran that night. Took nothing but the locket and what I was wearing." She met his gaze. You saved me from having to choose between my memories and my life. That's not nothing." Something shifted in Cole's expression. Understanding, connection, the recognition of kindred spirits scarred by the same wounds. Slowly, carefully, he covered her hand with his own. "You're safe here," he said, and it sounded like a vow. "I'll die before I let anyone hurt you." The words should have frightened her. Instead, they settled something in her chest, a tightness she'd been carrying since her parents died. "I believe you," she whispered. They stood like that as the mare shuffled in her stall and the wind howled outside. Two broken people finding unexpected shelter in each other's presence. The next weeks brought a subtle shift in their dynamic. Cole began teaching her to ride, proper riding, not just the desperate flight she'd managed to reach redemption. His hands would steady her as she mounted, his voice patient as he corrected her posture. "Relax your shoulders. The horse feels your tension." Sarah tried, hyper-aware of how close he stood, one hand on her boot, the other on her thigh, positioning her leg correctly. Even through the heavy fabric of her riding skirt, she felt the warmth of his palm. "Better," he said, and when she looked down, their faces were inches apart. Neither moved for a heartbeat. Two. Then Cole stepped back, cleared his throat, and swung up onto his own horse with practiced ease. They rode out to check the fence lines, the Montana landscape spreading before them in endless waves of grass and scattered pine. The sky was that particular blue that hurt to look at, so vast and empty, it made Sarah feel impossibly small and strangely free at the same time. "It's beautiful," she said. Cole glanced at her, something unreadable in his expression. "It grows on you, the space." He urged his horse forward. "After Rebecca died, I thought about leaving, going back east where there are people and noise, and you can forget yourself in a crowd." He paused. "But out here, there's nowhere to hide. You have to face what you are." "And what are you?" Sarah asked, still figuring that out. They found a break in the fence at the north pasture, 3 posts knocked down, wire tangled. Cole dismounted and set to work, and Sarah watched the play of muscles beneath his shirt as he lifted the heavy posts. When he removed his hat to wipe sweat from his brow, she saw how the sun had streaked his dark hair with lighter strands, like threads of gold. "Hand me that wire," he said, and she did, their fingers brushing as he took it. He inhaled sharply. Sarah felt it too, that electric jolt that seemed to jump between them at every touch. Sarah. Her name again, that warning tone. "What?" She met his eyes, refusing to look away. "This isn't." He gestured between them, jaw tight. "I can't offer you anything. I'm not asking for anything," she interrupted. But that was a lie, and they both knew it. Cole set down the wire. In one smooth motion, he closed the distance between them, cupped her face in his rough hands, and kissed her. The world tilted. Sarah gasped against his mouth, and he gentled immediately, his kiss becoming soft, questioning, asking permission even as he gave her all the power to stop this. She fisted her hands in his shirt and pulled him closer. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Cole rested his forehead against hers. "We shouldn't," he said. "I know. You work for me. It's not appropriate." "I know. I'm a mess, Sarah. I can't promise." She kissed him this time, cutting off his protests. When she pulled back, she kept her hands on his chest, feeling his heart thunder beneath her palms. "I'm not asking for promises," she said. "I'm just asking for this, whatever this is." Cole's thumb traced her cheekbone, his touch reverent. "You deserve more than whatever this is." "Maybe, but I want this anyway." She smiled, small and uncertain. "We're both broken, Cole. Maybe that's enough." "You're not broken." His voice was fierce. "You're the strongest person I've ever met." The words settled into her bones, belief she'd thought she'd lost forever. She reached up and touched his face, felt the rasp of stubble under her fingers. "So are you," she whispered. "You just don't see it yet." They rode back to the ranch in silence, but everything had changed. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She paced her room, replaying the kiss, Cole's words, the way he'd looked at her like she was something precious and terrifying at once. A soft knock at her door made her jump. "Sarah!" Cole's voice, quiet and rough. "You awake?" She opened the door. He stood in the hallway, still dressed, his hair disheveled, like he'd been running his hands through it. "Can't sleep either?" she asked. "No." He leaned against the doorframe, careful not to cross the threshold. "Keep thinking about you down the hall, and I'm in my room, and there's all this space between us that feels wrong," she finished. "Yeah." They stared at each other. Sarah's heart hammered so hard she was sure he could hear it. "I don't know how to do this," Cole said. "The last woman Rebecca and I grew up together. It was easy, expected. This is terrifying," Sarah supplied. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. What if we just take it slow?" Sarah suggested. "No expectations, just see what happens." "I could hurt you." The words seemed torn from him. "Not on purpose, but I'm still carrying Rebecca with me. I don't know when I'll be able to let that go." Sarah stepped closer, into his space. "I'm still carrying my parents, and the fear of what almost happened with Silas. We're both haunted, Cole." She placed her hand over his heart. "But maybe we can be haunted together." He covered her hand with his, pressed it harder against his chest. "Stay with me tonight?" At her startled look, he added quickly, "Just to sleep. I sleep better knowing you're close." It was the most vulnerable she'd seen him, this strong man admitting his need. Sarah nodded. Cole's room was larger than hers, dominated by a wide bed and more of those empty walls. He'd built a fire, and it cast dancing shadows across everything. Sarah sat on the edge of the bed, while Cole stood uncertainly by the window. "I'll take the floor," he said. "Don't be ridiculous. The bed is huge." She pulled back the covers, suddenly nervous. "We can manage." They lay down, carefully maintaining space between them. The wind rattled the windows. An owl hooted somewhere in the darkness. "Thank you," Cole said after a while, "for trusting me." Sarah rolled to face him. In the firelight, his profile was all strong lines and shadows. "Thank you for being trustworthy." He turned his head, met her eyes. Slowly, giving her every opportunity to refuse, he reached out and drew her closer. Sarah went, fitting herself against his side, her head on his chest. His heart beat steady beneath her ear. "This okay?" he murmured. "Perfect." His arm tightened around her. Within minutes, his breathing deepened, evened out. Sarah lay awake longer, marveling at how natural this felt, how right. She'd never felt this safe with any man, not even her father. When sleep finally came, she dreamed of wide skies and strong hands and the sound of Cole saying her name like a prayer. The idyll lasted 3 weeks. 3 weeks of stolen kisses in the barn, of Cole teaching her to shoot and Sarah teaching him to laugh again. 3 weeks of falling asleep in his arms and waking to his rare, beautiful smile. 3 weeks where Sarah began to believe she might actually have a future instead of just survival. Then Silas Crane rode into the yard with 5 men at his back. Sarah was hanging laundry when she heard the horses. She looked up and felt her blood turn to ice. Silas sat astride a massive bay, his bulk filling the saddle, his face red and cruel under his wide-brimmed hat. He smiled when he saw her, showing tobacco-stained teeth. "There's my bride," he called out, loud enough to carry across the yard. "Thought you could run from me, Sarah." Cole emerged from the barn, alerted by the commotion. His eyes found Sarah first, saw her terror, then swept to Silas and his men. His expression went cold and hard as winter stone. "You're on private property," Cole said, his voice deadly quiet. "Come for what's mine." Silas spat tobacco juice into the dirt. Girl's uncle signed a contract. She's promised to me. Sarah isn't property. Cole moved to stand between them, and Sarah realized his hand rested on the revolver at his hip. And she's staying here. Silas laughed, ugly and mean. That's so. You think you can take all of us, Hawthorne? Cole's men, Jack, Thomas, William and Pete, had emerged from the bunkhouse and spread out, their own hands on weapons. The odds were closer now, but still not good. Sarah, Cole said without looking at her, go inside. Cole, inside, now. The command in his voice made her move, but she only went as far as the porch, close enough to grab the rifle she knew Cole kept by the door. She cost me the bride price I paid her uncle, Silas was saying, and embarrassed me in front of the whole county. I aim to collect what's owed. She owes you nothing. Cole's hand closed around his revolver. Leave, now, while you still can. Or what? Silas sneered. You'll shoot me? My men will cut you down. Maybe. Cole's voice was steady. But I'll take you with me. That a trade you're willing to make? The two men stared at each other, and Sarah saw Silas calculate the odds. He wanted her, but not badly enough to die for it. This ain't over, Silas said finally. I'll be back with the law. Contract says she's mine. Law can try, Cole replied. Outcome will be the same. Silas wheeled his horse, his men following. But at the edge of the yard, he turned back. You know what she is, Hawthorne? She's used goods. Her daddy put his hands on her plenty before he died. Why do you think her uncle was so eager to be rid of her? The lie hit Sarah like a physical blow. She gasped, and across the yard, Cole's shoulders stiffened. That's not true, Sarah said, but her voice came out weak, shaken. Ain't it? Silas grinned. Ask her about the scars on her back. Ask her how she really got them. Then he rode away, leaving silence and poison in his wake. Cole turned to face her. Sarah saw 100 emotions cross his face. Confusion, doubt, question. It's not true, she said again, stronger now. My father never, he wasn't. Show me your back. Cole's voice was gentle but firm. Sarah's hands trembled as she turned around and pulled down the collar of her dress, just enough to reveal the top of her shoulders. She heard Cole's sharp intake of breath. Sarah. He was suddenly there, his fingers ghosting over the old scars. Who did this to you? My uncle. The words felt like broken glass. After my parents died, when I didn't move fast enough or cook right or... Her voice broke. He said I was worthless, that no decent man would want me, that Silas was the best I could hope for because Silas didn't care about the scars. Cole's arms came around her from behind, careful and strong. I'm going to kill him. Cole, I'm going to kill both of them. His voice shook with rage. For what they did to you, for what they tried to make you believe about yourself. Sarah turned in his arms, looked up at his face, saw murder there, and love, and a fierce protectiveness that took her breath away. I don't need you to kill anyone, she said. I just need you to hold me and tell me I'm not what they said I was. Cole's hands came up to frame her face, so gentle despite their size and strength. You're extraordinary, he said fiercely. You're brave and strong, and the fact that you survived that you're standing here whole and fighting, that makes you a warrior. You understand me? She nodded, throat too tight to speak. I love you, Cole said, and the words hit like lightning. I know it's too soon, and I'm still a mess and I have no right. But I love you. You're not used goods or damaged or any of the lies they told you. He stopped, searching for words. You're everything. Cole. Sarah was crying now, couldn't stop. I love you too. They kissed there in the yard, in full view of anyone watching, and Sarah felt something shift in her soul. A lock breaking open, a cage door swinging wide. When they finally pulled apart, Cole rested his forehead against hers. They'll come back, he said. With the law, like Silas said, we need to be ready. What do? We fight. He pulled back, met her eyes. But first, we make sure they can't claim any legal hold on you. Sarah Mitchell, he dropped to one knee right there in the dirt. Will you marry me? Sarah stared at him. This broken, beautiful man who'd given her back her life. You want to marry me? I want to wake up next to you every morning and go to sleep knowing you're safe. I want to teach you to ride fast enough to outrun any man who tries to hurt you and shoot straight enough to put a bullet between their eyes if they catch up. His voice cracked, I want to have a chance at happy. With you, if you'll risk it with me. Sarah dropped to her knees in front of him, took his face in her hands. Yes. The relief that washed over Cole's features was beautiful. He kissed her again, deep and claiming, then stood and pulled her to her feet. We'll ride to town tomorrow, get married by the minister. He glanced at the horizon where Silas had disappeared. And then we'll be ready for whatever comes. The wedding was simple. They rode to Redemption the next morning, Cole, Sarah and his 4 ranch hands as witnesses. The minister performed the ceremony in the small church, and Sarah spoke her vows with a steady voice, feeling the weight of the moment settle into her bones, when Cole slipped a simple gold band on her finger and said, With this ring, I claim you as mine and give myself as yours. She felt tears slip down her cheeks. You may kiss your bride, the minister said. Cole cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing away her tears. Mrs. Hawthorne, he murmured, and kissed her soft and sweet and full of promise. Outside the church, they ran into the town doctor, a kindly older man named Patterson. Heard there might be trouble coming your way, Patterson said quietly. Silas was in here yesterday, making noise about contracts and rights. We just got married, Cole said, his arm around Sarah's waist. Any contract her uncle made is void. Patterson nodded. That's the legal truth, but Silas isn't much for legalities. He pulled out a small paper packet. Laudanum, in case someone gets hurt. His eyes met Cole's meaningfully. And I didn't see you folks in town today. Understand? Understood. Cole shook his hand. Thank you. They rode back to the ranch as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Sarah leaned back against Cole's chest. They'd ridden double, intimate and close, and felt his heartbeat against her spine. What happens now? She asked. Now we live. His arms tightened around her, and if Silas comes back, we handle it. Together. Together, she echoed, liking the sound of it. That night, they lay in Cole's bed, their bed now, and he held her close, his hands tracing the scars on her back with infinite gentleness. These don't define you, he whispered against her skin. They're just marks, proof you survived, but they're not who you are. What am I? Sarah asked. Mine. He kissed her shoulder. Strong, brave, beautiful. Another kiss higher. Everything I didn't know I needed. She turned in his arms, faced him in the darkness. Make love to me. Sarah. I want this. I want you. She touched his face. I want to replace the bad memories with good ones. With us. Cole kissed her slow and deep, and then his hands began to move, reverent and careful, learning her body like sacred text. When he made to remove her nightgown, she tensed. We can stop, he said immediately. Any time you want. No, she shook her head. I want this, just go slow, some of it. It hurts. The memories, I mean. Cole's expression went fierce and tender at once. I'll die before I hurt you, he said. You set the pace. You say when and how and if you need me to stop. I stop. Understood. The control he gave her, the way he made her feel safe even in this most vulnerable moment. It broke something open in her chest. Sarah pulled him down to her, kissed him with all the love and trust she had. They moved together slowly, carefully, Cole checking in with every touch, every movement. When he finally joined with her, she gasped at the intimacy of it, the overwhelming rightness. Okay, he breathed against her neck. Yes. She wrapped her legs around him. "Don't stop." Afterwards, they lay tangled together, sweat cooling on their skin, hearts gradually slowing. Cole traced idle patterns on her back, while Sarah rested her head on his chest. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For making me feel like a person again, not property, not damaged, just me." Cole tilted her face up, kissed her soft and lingering. "You've always been a person, a remarkable one. I'm just grateful you let me see it." They fell asleep like that, wrapped in each other. And for the first time in years, neither of them had nightmares. Silas returned 4 days later. This time, he brought the sheriff. Cole and Sarah were working in the garden when they rode up. Cole straightened, his hand going to his revolver, but Sarah touched his arm. "The law," she murmured. "We have to try this their way first." The sheriff was a weathered man in his 50s named Harrison. He dismounted slowly, keeping his hands visible. "Hawthorne, Mrs. Hawthorne?" He nodded to them both. "Mind if we talk?" "Depends what about," Cole said. "Got a complaint from Mr. Crane here about a stolen bride and breach of contract." Harrison's tone was carefully neutral. "Says you're harboring his intended wife." "She's not his intended," Cole said flatly. "She's my wife. We married 4 days ago." Silas surged forward. "That marriage ain't legal. She was already promised to me." "A promise made by her uncle without her consent," Sarah said, finding her voice. "I'm of legal age. I refuse the marriage. That's my right." "The contract," Silas started, "is void." Harrison pulled out a paper. "I checked with the territorial judge. A woman of legal age can refuse any marriage, contract or no." He looked at Silas. "You paid her uncle a bride price. That's between you and him. But the girl, the woman, she's free to marry who she chooses." Silas's face went purple. "You can't. I have rights." "No," Harrison said firmly. "You don't. Now I suggest you ride on out of here before I arrest you for trespassing and harassment." "I'll see you dead for this, Hawthorne," Silas spat. "You hear me, both of you." "That's a threat," Cole said quietly. "Sheriff, you heard that?" "I did." Harrison rested his hand on his gun. "Mr. Crane, mount up, now." For a moment, Sarah thought Silas might actually try something. His hand twitched toward his gun, and she saw Cole shift his weight, ready to draw. But then Silas seemed to deflate, all his bluster draining away. "This ain't over," he muttered, but he climbed on his horse. Harrison waited until Silas and his men were out of sight before turning back to Cole and Sarah. "He's right, you know," Harrison said quietly. "This isn't over. Man like that doesn't let go easy." "We'll be ready," Cole said. "See that you are." Harrison tipped his hat to Sarah. "Mrs. Hawthorne, you made a good choice. Cole's a good man." After he left, Sarah sagged against Cole, suddenly exhausted. "It's done," she whispered. "Really done. Not yet." Cole's jaw was tight. "He threatened us. Men like Silas don't make threats they don't intend to follow through on." He was right. 3 nights later, fire lit up the darkness. Sarah woke to Cole shouting, to the smell of smoke. She stumbled out of bed, pulled on her robe, and ran downstairs. Through the window she could see the barn blazing, flames reaching toward the sky. "The horses!" She started for the door, but Cole caught her. "The men are getting them out." He thrust a rifle into her hands. "This isn't just a fire. Someone set it. They'll be watching." As if to confirm his words, a bullet shattered the window above their heads. Sarah screamed, and Cole pulled her down behind the heavy table. "How many?" she gasped. "At least 3, maybe more." He moved to the window, fired twice. "They're using the fire as cover." Outside, she could hear the horses screaming, the men shouting. Another window broke, glass showering across the floor. Cole fired again, and someone outside cursed. "I need to get to the barn," Cole said. "Help the men. You'll be killed. If I don't, we lose everything." He gripped her shoulders. "Sarah, I need you to cover me. Can you do that?" Fear turned her blood cold, but she nodded. Cole had taught her to shoot. She could do this. "On three," Cole said. "1, 2. He burst through the door, running low and fast toward the burning barn. Sarah raised the rifle and fired at the muzzle flashes she could see in the darkness, again and again, until the rifle clicked empty. She reloaded with shaking hands, kept firing. A man broke from cover, running toward Cole's exposed back. Sarah tracked him, exhaled, and squeezed the trigger. The man went down. She'd just killed someone. There wasn't time to process it. She kept firing, kept Cole covered until he reached the barn and disappeared inside. A moment later, he emerged leading 2 panicked horses, his men right behind him with more. They got all the horses out, but the barn was a total loss. By the time the flames died down to embers, dawn was breaking, and Sarah stood on the porch with the rifle still clutched in white-knuckled hands, searching the shadows for threats. Cole climbed the steps, covered in soot and ash, a burn on his forearm. His eyes found hers, and something fierce and proud blazed there. "You saved my life," he said. "That man you shot, he had me dead to rights." Sarah looked at the body still lying in the yard, felt bile rise in her throat. "I killed him. You protected what's yours." Cole pulled her into his arms, rifle and all. "That's not murder. That's survival." She buried her face in his chest, breathed in smoke and sweat, and the indefinable scent that was purely coal. Is it over now? One way or another? He pulled back, looked toward the horizon. That was Silas's play. He'll either run now or come back to finish it. Silas came back. 2 days later, he rode in alone, his hands raised, no weapons visible. "I want to talk," he shouted from the edge of the property. "Hawthorne, I'm unarmed." Cole stepped onto the porch, rifle in hand. "Say your piece from there. I'll offer you a deal." Silas's voice carried across the yard. "You got lucky with that fire. Next time I'll burn the house with you in it. Unless," he paused, "unless you sell me the girl." Sarah, standing behind Cole, felt rage flood through her. Before Cole could respond, she stepped forward. "I'm not for sale." Her voice rang out, clear and strong. "I'm not property, Silas. I never was. Everything's for sale at the right price." "No." She walked down the steps, ignoring Cole's sharp intake of breath. "Some things can't be bought, can't be taken, can't be broken." She stopped halfway across the yard. "You tried to break me, you and my uncle. You tried to make me believe I was worthless, but you were wrong. Sarah." Cole was suddenly beside her, his presence solid and reassuring. She glanced at him, then back at Silas. "This man sees me, really sees me. He knows what I've survived, and he doesn't think less of me for it. He thinks I'm strong." She reached for Cole's hand, laced their fingers together. "And he's right. I am strong. Strong enough to say no to you. Strong enough to fight for what I want. Strong enough to build a life that's mine." Silas's face twisted with hatred. "You're nothing but a—" "Careful," Cole interrupted, his voice deadly soft. "Choose your next words very carefully." They stood like that, the 3 of them forming points of a triangle. The sun beat down. A hawk circled overhead. "I could kill you both right now," Silas said. "You could try." Cole's hand drifted toward his gun. "But you're not that fast. I've heard about you, Crane. Heard about how you hurt those women because they couldn't fight back. Well, Sarah fights back, and so do I. This is your last chance, Hawthorne. Sell her to me. Walk away with your life." "No." Cole's answer was simple, final. Silas's hand flashed toward his boot, toward the knife hidden there, but Cole was faster. His gun cleared leather and fired in one smooth motion. Silas jerked backward, a red stain spreading across his chest, and fell. For a moment no one moved. Then Cole lowered his gun, his hand shaking slightly. "Self-defense," he said quietly. Everyone saw him go for his weapon first. Sarah looked at Silas's body, at the man who'd haunted her nightmares, and felt nothing. Just relief that it was over. She turned to Cole, saw the conflict in his face. He'd just killed a man, and no matter the justification, that left marks. "Hey," she touched his face. "You protected us. That's all you did." "I know." But his eyes were haunted. Sarah stepped closer, wrapped her arms around him. "Together," she whispered. "We handle this together." Cole's arms came around her, held her tight. "Together," he agreed. Sheriff Harrison arrived an hour later, summoned by one of the ranch hands. He examined Silas's body, took statements from everyone present, and finally turned to Cole and Sarah. "Self-defense," he said. "Clear as day. He came here threatening, went for a weapon first." He paused. "You're free to go, Hawthorne." After Harrison left, Cole found Sarah on the porch, staring out at the mountains. "You okay?" he asked. "I thought I'd feel different." She turned to face him. "I thought when he was gone I'd feel lighter, but I just feel tired." Cole sat beside her, pulled her into his side. "Takes time. Healing isn't instant." "How long did it take you?" She looked up at him. "After Rebecca." "Still taking." He kissed the top of her head. "But it's easier now, since you." They sat in comfortable silence as the sun set, painting the sky in golds and crimsons. The burned barn was a black skeleton against the horizon, a reminder of what they'd survived. "We should rebuild," Sarah said. "Make it bigger, better." "Yeah?" Cole smiled slightly. "Planning to stay a while." "Planning to stay forever." She twisted to face him. "This is home now. You're home." His arms tightened around her. "I love you." "I love you too." She hesitated, then said, "I want to have children. Someday. Is that... Can you..." "Yes." The word was fierce and immediate. "God, yes, I want that. With you. Even after, especially after." He cupped her face. "Life doesn't stop because we've been hurt. We honor the people we lost by living, by being happy, by building something new." Sarah kissed him, soft and lingering. "Then let's build." 6 months later, Sarah stood in the doorway of the new barn, bigger and better, just as she'd said, and watched Cole work with a young colt. He moved with patient grace, his voice low and soothing, and the colt followed him like a shadow. Her hand drifted to her stomach, to the small swell hidden beneath her dress. She hadn't told him yet, wanted to be sure, but the doctor had confirmed it yesterday. A baby, due in late winter. As if sensing her gaze, Cole looked up and smiled. That rare, beautiful smile he saved just for her. He said something to the ranch hand helping him and crossed the yard in long strides. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, pulling her close. "The future." She looked up at him. "Our future. Our future." He kissed her forehead. "I like the sound of that." "Cole." She took his hand, pressed it against her stomach. "There's something you should know." She watched understanding dawn in his eyes, saw wonder and fear and joy chase across his face. Sarah. Her name was a prayer. "Really? Really?" She smiled through sudden tears. "Are you happy?" For an answer, he picked her up and spun her around, laughing, actually laughing, the sound so rare and precious it made her cry harder. "Happy doesn't begin to cover it." He set her down gently, reverently. "You're sure you're okay? The pregnancy, after everything?" "I'm fine." She touched his face. "Better than fine. I'm happy, Cole. Really, truly happy." He kissed her then, deep and claiming, and Sarah felt the last pieces of her broken past finally settle into something like peace. That night, they lay in bed, Cole's hand resting on her stomach, his thumb tracing idle circles. "Boy or girl?" he asked. "Don't care." She covered his hand with hers. "As long as they're healthy." "They'll be strong," Cole said. like their mother, and stubborn like their father. He chuckled. Poor kid doesn't stand a chance. They fell quiet, comfortable in the silence. Outside, an owl hooted. The wind whispered through the pines. "Sarah?" Cole's voice was soft in the darkness. "What? Thank you. For what? For staying, for choosing this, for—" He stopped, searching for words. "For giving me a reason to stop just surviving and start living again." She rolled to face him, found his eyes in the moonlight. "You did the same for me." "Yeah?" He smiled. "Then I guess we saved each other." "Yeah?" She kissed him softly. "I guess we did." A year later, Sarah stood on the porch of the ranch house, her daughter asleep against her shoulder. The sun was setting, painting the mountains gold and crimson, and she breathed in the scent of pine and sage and home. Cole rode in from checking the north pasture, dismounted with the easy grace of a man comfortable in his skin. When he saw her, his face lit up with that smile she loved so much. "How's my girls?" he asked, climbing the steps. "Perfect." Sarah shifted the baby so Cole could kiss her soft head. "She slept most of the day. I think she's going to have your temperament." "God help us." But his voice was full of love as he wrapped his arm around Sarah's waist, pulled her and their daughter close. They stood like that, the three of them, watching the sunset. The burned barn was long rebuilt. The land was thriving. The scars on Sarah's back were still there, but they'd faded, becoming just another part of her story rather than the whole thing. "Do you ever think about that day?" Sarah asked quietly. "In redemption, when I tried to sell my mother's locket." "Every day." Cole looked down at her. "Best thing that ever happened to me." "Really? Even with everything that came after? Silas, the fire, especially because of all that?" He kissed her temple. "We fought for this, built it from nothing. That makes it real." Their daughter stirred, made a small noise. Cole took her carefully, cradled her against his chest, with a tenderness that still made Sarah's heart squeeze. "I was thinking," he said, "we should expand the house, add a room for the baby, maybe two." "Two?" Sarah raised an eyebrow. Cole grinned. "Got to plan for the future, Mrs. Hawthorne." "Is that so, Mr. Hawthorne?" He kissed her, the baby safe between them, and Sarah tasted promise and forever on his lips. A rider appeared on the horizon, and Sarah tensed automatically, but Cole just smiled. "That's Jack. Bring in the mail." He handed the baby back to Sarah. "Be right back." She watched him go, this man who'd saved her and let her save him in return. Watched the easy way he moved, the strength in his shoulders, the lightness that hadn't been there a year ago. The past year hadn't been easy. There had been nightmares, both of them waking in the dark, reaching for each other. There had been moments when the weight of what they'd survived threatened to crush them, but they'd faced it together, one day at a time, and slowly, the good days outnumbered the bad. Cole returned with a letter, his expression odd. "What is it?" Sarah asked. "Letter from your uncle." At her sharp intake of breath, he added quickly, "He's asking for forgiveness. Says he knows what he did was wrong. Says he's sick and wanted to apologize before—" He stopped. "You don't have to read it if you don't want to." Sarah took the letter, stared at it. A year ago, even 6 months ago, she would have torn it up, but now, standing on her porch with her husband and daughter, she felt only a distant ache. "I forgive him," she said quietly, "not because he deserves it, but because I don't want to carry that anger anymore." Cole cupped her face. "You're sure?" "I'm sure." She set the letter aside. "He doesn't get to take up space in my head anymore. That space is for better things now." "Like what?" She gestured to the ranch, the mountains, the endless sky. "Like this. Like us. Like the life we're building." Cole kissed her, soft and sweet. When he pulled back, his eyes were suspiciously bright. "I don't deserve you," he said. "Yes, you do." She kissed him again. "And I deserve you. We deserve this." Later that night, after the baby was asleep in her cradle and they were alone in their room, Cole pulled Sarah close. "I was thinking," he said against her hair, "about that storm, the night we met." "What about it?" "You asked me once if I'd ever regret helping you." He pulled back to look at her. "The answer is no, never, not for a single second. You're the best thing that ever happened to me, Sarah Hawthorne." She touched his face, traced the line of his jaw. "You saved my life that night." "No." He caught her hand, pressed a kiss to her palm. "We saved each other." Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance. Another storm coming, but Sarah just smiled and pulled Cole closer. "Go slow," she whispered, echoing words from another night. Another storm. "It still hurts sometimes. The memories." Cole's hands gentled on her, reverent and careful. "I can take it," he murmured, his version of the promise she'd given him months ago. "Tell me what you need." She looked up at him, at this beautiful broken man who'd helped her piece herself back together. "Just you," she said. "Just this." "You can handle me," Cole said softly. Seriously, his lips brushing hers. "You're stronger than any storm." The words settled into Sarah's bones, belief and promise and truth. She pulled him down to her, losing herself in his kiss, in the solid warmth of him, in the future they were building one day, one moment, one choice at a time. The storm broke outside, rain hammering the windows, but inside they were warm and safe and together. And that, Sarah thought as Cole's hands found her skin and his breath mingled with hers, that was everything. Years later, when their daughter was old enough to understand, Sarah would tell her about the night she almost traded her mother's locket for a meal. About the man who'd said no, keep your memories, and offered her something better. About how sometimes the worst storms brought you exactly where you needed to be. But for now, she just held her husband close and listened to the thunder fade and thought about second chances and new beginnings and love that was earned, not given. "I love you," she whispered against Cole's skin. "I love you too." His arms tightened around her. "Always." Outside, the storm raged on, but inside, wrapped in each other's arms, Sarah and Cole had already found their peace. The end. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're enjoying this tale from. Are you listening at home, during your commute, or perhaps while working? Please subscribe to the From Wild West channel and share your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think of Sarah and Cole's journey? Your feedback means the world to us.